Abraham's story did not end with his death. Over the centuries, different religious traditions preserved the memory of his family and his descendants. Ishmael would become a central figure in Islamic tradition. Isaac would become the primary focus of the biblical narrative that shaped Judaism and later Christianity. Through Isaac came Jacob. And through Jacob came traditions that would help define the identity of an ancient people for generations. But who was Jacob? And how did the stories of his family become some of the most influential narratives in human history? In this episode, we explore the tradition surrounding Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 tribes, and examine how these stories helped shape the foundations of biblical history. According to the book of Genesis, Isaac was the son of Abraham and Sarah. Like his father before him, Isaac lived in the land of Canaan as a pastoral herdsman, moving between grazing lands and water sources while caring for flocks and family. Although historians have found no direct archaeological evidence for Isaac himself, the lifestyle described in these traditions closely resembles the world of many pastoral communities that existed throughout the ancient Near East during the Bronze Age. Families depended upon livestock for survival. Water wells were valuable resources. Seasonal migration was common. And family inheritance often determined leadership, wealth, and social status. Isaac married Rebekah, and together they had twin sons, Esau and Jacob. The relationship between these brothers would become one of the most famous family stories in the Bible. Esau, the elder twin, was described as a skilled hunter and a man of the open countryside. Jacob was portrayed differently. He was more closely connected to family life and domestic affairs. According to the biblical narrative, rivalry developed between the brothers over inheritance and blessing. These themes of family conflict and succession were familiar throughout the ancient world, where leadership and inheritance often determined the future of entire families and tribes. As the story unfolds, Jacob eventually leaves his homeland and travels north toward Haran, a region connected to his family's earlier history. The journey marks a turning point in his life. Far from home and uncertain about the future, Jacob stops for the night. It is here that one of the most memorable scenes in biblical tradition takes place. The book of Genesis describes Jacob dreaming of a stairway stretching between earth and heaven. Divine messengers moved up and down upon it. Above stood God, reaffirming promises previously associated with Abraham and Isaac. For generations of believers, this dream became a powerful symbol of the connection between the human and divine worlds. Whether understood as history, sacred tradition, or religious symbolism, the story became one of the defining images of biblical literature. Jacob continued his journey to Haran, where he met members of his extended family. There he encountered Rachel, and according to the biblical account, immediately fell in love with her. Jacob agreed to work 7 years to marry Rachel. But the story took an unexpected turn. After completing his years of service, he was instead given Rachel's older sister, Leah, as a wife. Jacob then worked additional years before finally marrying Rachel as well. These family relationships would shape the future of the biblical narrative. Over time, Jacob's household grew into a large family. His wives, children, servants, and livestock formed a substantial community moving through the ancient landscape. Among his children were 12 sons whose names would later occupy an important place in biblical history. But before their significance became clear, another remarkable event took place. After many years away, Jacob began the journey back toward Canaan. According to the biblical narrative, he spent one night alone near the Jabbok River. There, he encountered a mysterious figure and wrestled with him until dawn. The identity of this figure has been interpreted in different ways throughout history. Some traditions viewed it as an angel. Others saw it as a symbolic encounter with the divine. Regardless of interpretation, the event ends with Jacob receiving a new name: Israel. The meaning of the name has been debated by scholars and theologians, but it is often understood as relating to struggle, perseverance, or striving with God. This moment became one of the most important turning points in the patriarchal traditions. From that point forward, Jacob was remembered not only as an individual ancestor but also as a symbolic father figure whose descendants would shape future generations. According to biblical tradition, Jacob's 12 sons became the ancestors of the 12 tribes. Their names were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. These names appear repeatedly throughout the Hebrew Bible and became central to the identity of ancient Israelite society. Each tribe developed its own traditions, territories, and historical role. Some would become associated with priesthood. Others would become known for leadership, warfare, or settlement in particular regions. Together, they formed the foundation of a shared ancestral tradition. From a historical perspective, scholars continue to debate how these tribal traditions developed. Archaeological evidence suggests that new communities emerged in the highlands of Canaan during the Late Bronze Age and Early Iron Age. Over time, these communities developed a distinct cultural identity. Many historians believe that ancestral traditions, including the stories of Jacob and his sons, helped unite diverse groups by providing a shared origin story. Whether the 12 tribes began as biological descendants of a single family, symbolic representations of allied groups, or a combination of memory and tradition remains a subject of scholarly discussion. What is clear is that these stories became enormously influential. For centuries, they provided a framework through which people understood their history, identity, and relationship with God. Like Abraham and Isaac before him, Jacob occupies a unique place between history, memory, and faith. Direct archaeological evidence for his life has not been discovered. Yet his story survived for thousands of years, preserved through oral traditions, written texts, and religious communities across generations. Through Jacob, the biblical narrative begins to move beyond a single family and toward the story of an entire people. And among Jacob's 12 sons, one would soon emerge as the central figure of an extraordinary story. A young dreamer whose life would take him far from home. A man who would be sold into slavery. A prisoner who would rise to unexpected power. And a figure whose journey would connect his family to one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world. In the next episode, we explore the story of Joseph and his remarkable rise in Egypt, a story that would eventually set the stage for one of the most famous narratives in biblical history.